So conclusions, you are what you write in medicine, and once you've written it, it is there for good. You know, they're just putting the newspapers from 1850 on the World Wide Web, I noticed last week, and that whatever you write now will be on the web forever. So that's one, in one way that's a positive, but you better be sure that if what you publish is honest and true, because if it isn't, you could never take it back. You can check on PubMed or Medline to review your publication status. It's real fun to do that, to see the papers coming up as they get accepted. Right, as Killian says, clearly, concisely, and honestly, no massaging. Massage is great in a massage parlour, but not when you're writing a paper. And check anything that has your name on it carefully. And don't forget to state any possible conflicts of interest. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Roger. The impact factor, by the way, is a formula which is the number of citations divided by the number of papers published in a particular journal. And so the impact factor for 2009, which has come out, is the number of papers that have been cited in such a way in 2006 and 2007 during the calendar year 2008. And you see how confusing it is, but that's what the impact factor is. And so that's what it is. And for me, it's only of relative importance. I prefer a journal that is good to read, interesting, and contains papers which are of a very high quality. Any questions for Roger? Yes, Marcus.
Thanks, John. Roger, the conflict of interest issue is obviously fundamental. You've alluded to the financial conflicts of interest, which is pretty straightforward to declare. I got money for such and such. But in fact, the conflicts of interest are substantially more insidious than that. Because if you publish a paper with an exciting result, you will become famous. You will be cited a lot. You will then get invited to do talks around the world. And as a consequence of all that, the temptation is there to massage the figures. And I just wonder, have we got any means by which we can overcome this sort of insidious conflict of interest that I think does lead us astray in rather more situations than perhaps we like to admit?
Well, I can't think of a mechanism. I think giving talks like this about probity, because the reality is that you can do 100 good things and people don't remember you, but you do one bad thing and you're marked for life. It's the same. You do 100 operations and they go well. You have one where the patient has disastrous consequences. Everybody remembers that one. That's all they talk about. That's the world we live in now. But your credibility, it's the same in your personal life, isn't it? If once you've lost your credibility for being honest and straightforward, just stop.
Roger, thank you very much. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah.
It's about the reviewers, scientific reviewers. The first question was, how do you select them? Secondly, like in the BJU, they have a section where the author could give suggest 2-3 reviewers and suggest 2-3 who they do not think should review. So there could be a conflict of interest there. Like, for example, if I suggest somebody who I work with, and they tend to me. So how do you go about?
Well, we sometimes. Do you want to answer that question?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you mention your colleague as a reviewer,
I mean that is
not of you, but of one. I mean, you have to be aware of the fact that I probably wouldn't fall for that one. Usually, what happens is I don't pay any attention to the suggested reviewers, but on the other hand, sometimes it can be helpful, and we do choose them. But we don't fall for simple tricks. So I mean, if one were to use such a ruse, such a really gross thing to say, oh yeah, I'll get my brother to review that, I probably would not fall for that. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Any burning issue? Another burning issue. Excellent. Tell us who you are.
Young SPR in Edinburgh.
Thank you.
Can I ask, what does the committee think about aiming high and going for the high impact factor journal, risking rejection, and then doing the rounds for, say, a year before you get publication? Or do you sort of set your sights at a more modest level and
No.
get that in, get
No,
your
that won't
information
work.
in the public domain?
No, I wouldn't recommend that. I think what was said earlier by Killian and by Roger and by myself is you send it to the to the journal, the audience of which you would like to read it. Don't make that mistake. Kieran, no, here, hold on.
John, I was going to ask you whether you have detected plagiarism in relation to publications from within the British Isles, and if that's the case, what you perhaps have done about it.
The answer to that is I haven't, actually. So there it is. But if I did, then the answer is as follows. I would write to the author and tell him that this had happened, that he was guilty of it. I would send a copy of that letter to each of the other editors of the journals. I would include as many journals as I could. I would tell the author that, in fact, he would not have any more papers published in any of these journals for 3 to 4 years, and there it is. So the cost is absolutely gigantic, and it's just so dangerous for that person's career. I then get a whole series of letters say, oh, the chap's training, he made a mistake, couldn't you do? No, can't.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kieran. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is on a different note. I'm Deepak Batura from Northwick Park. And this is on a different note. You said that one of the largest stumbling blocks is statistics. And we find that a lot of papers have fairly complex statistics. So what's the best way to go around it? Get a statistician on board beforehand, or?
Can I answer? Yes. For example, if you're doing a randomized study, you have to power that study at the beginning of it to show a difference, or not to show a difference, depending what it is. But you have to get statistical advice on that. So your first port of call is into the statistician. So you need to know how many people you have in each of the 2 groups or 3 groups or whatever it is, because otherwise you introduce bias depending on the size of it or not. I'm just answering the question. And so therefore we that's where the issue is. So statistical advice before you start, so that you'll know how many people to put into it.